Larry Wollersheim got involved in Scientology in the late 1960s and was in for several years, including joining the Sea Organization. We covered his story on this video interview, Taking on Scientology and Winning. He eventually ended up suing Scientology in court and winning a huge judgment. And then it took years for him to be able to collect that judgment. And he was fair game during that for quite some time. Anyway, this video that we did before, Taking on Scientology and Winning, was the first part of his story. He then came on and we did a video with him, Healing After Scientology, where he talks about different steps you can take to heal from a cult like Scientology and other cults as well. Well, he's here today for a live question and answer with our viewers, and we hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our channel, Scientology, Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and I'm happy to have you here in our live chat. Now, Janice Gillum-Grady, my co-host, she's here, but she's under the weather with a bad cold and coughing a lot. So she's actually in the chat moderating and will actually star your questions and that type of thing. And you can chat with her in the chat as well. So she's here in spirit, but you won't be able to see her. But we're real excited to have our guest here today. Now, I wanted to let everybody know this is a live chat for you all. Get in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. And then if you have any questions at all for Larry or any comments or anything we have, if you have a question, please write the word question. Makes it easy for Janice to spot. She'll start, and then we'll get to the questions, as we go through the show. The other thing I wanted to mention, if you want to super chat or super sticker us, that helps, keep the channel going. So we really appreciate any donations from that super chat, super sticker type of thing. And anyway, and then just keep the comments. We're gonna, have a lot of fun with this. Larry is a very interesting gentleman, and this is going to be his last time speaking out is on this show here, this Q&A. So it's your time to get in there and ask good questions, and he will answer them for you. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Larry Wollersheim. How you doing, Larry?
I'm doing good. I want to first say hi to everyone who's viewing, and I hope that I'm able to offer some useful information that can be healing and serving and helping them with whatever they're doing in their Scientology transition.
That's fantastic. Now, you had a story that you wanted to start off with and tell the viewers about, right, that we didn't cover before. So let's go ahead and start with that. Yeah.
First thing I need to say is everything I'm saying is my opinion, and it's based on my 30, 40 years, 10 years in Scientology and 30 years fighting them in the courts. I call it the power formula in order to survive Scientology in the courts, win, and like they paid me $9.2 million. It took a long time. It was the second longest case in U.S. history, other than the Edgar Mevers case, which was a civil rights case down south. But they will pay if you follow the power formula. Please excuse me looking at my notes every once in a while because I've got a lot of notes and I don't want to miss anything on this last interview I'm going to do. It's 3 parts. First part is right motivation, second part is right plan, and the third part is right action. This opportunity for me to speak about this is dedicated to my son and my family who suffered greatly during the time that I was in Scientology and challenging them in the courts. So let me start out right away with right motivation. You can't survive the length of time and the abuse that Scientology is going to heap upon you, your family, your employer, your friends, and everyone else, unless you have the right motivation. And the first right motivation is you seeking justice. You've got to say, you got to really have some real damage to you or those around you that is worth taking to court and going through this battle. But that is absolutely not enough. You can start this battle with anger and revenge in your heart, and they'll get you going, but that's still not enough. You have to have a deeper level of motivation, which I call, you don't ever want this to happen to anyone else ever again. It's beyond you, and you're very serious about that you know that this is for the good of others, in addition to healing and getting restitution and getting your own life in balance. Right. Now, let me tell a short story that'll help you understand how deep this motivation has to be. During the trial, just before we went to trial, a couple of months, I sat in a room with Scientology's senior executives, except Miscavige. There was most of the major executives were there, and Scientology's legal team and myself and my attorney. And my attorney comes back over to me after talking with Scientology's lead attorney at the time and says, they're going to offer you $25 million cash to go away. And I believe even Mike Rinder was in the room at that time. They're going to give you $25 million, write the check right now. Here's the agreement they want you to sign. And I advise you not to do it. And I looked at him and I went, holy moly. I said, why? And he said, because what they want you to do is betray every other person that comes behind you by saying everything they did to you. You have to sign this thing that says everything they did to you was done as a normal religious practice and completely protected by the U.S. Constitution under freedom of religion. And he looked at me and he said, you want to fuck everybody that comes behind you? Take the 25 million and do this. And I looked at him and he didn't want me to. And I knew that this wasn't just about me and the harm that caused to my son and my family. So I said no to $25 million. The check was there. All I had to do was sign. So that's the kind of motivation you need if you want to take on Scientology. So I mentioned something about letting go of anger, hatred, and revenge. At some point, you're going to have to reach the point where you're neutral with them. And at some point, anger, hatred, and revenge are going to cloud your judgment and suck your energy. You got to find a way as you go through the process to let go of it. I even prayed for Scientology. They're people, they got trapped, except for the very top. The sociopaths at the top of Scientology know that Scientology is bullshit. This is important to know about Scientology. This is part of the preparation. The top of the Scientology, they do not believe all this science fiction stuff. They know it's about power, money, sex, attention, control, status. They fly to different parts of the world and have fun where no Scientologists see what's going on. They enjoy the hell out of their lives in the con. It's the level below the senior management, and we call them manipulated manipulators. They are the true believers who believe all this crap. They don't understand it's just a sociological and psychological coercive manipulation technology. And they're the ones who then create the belief at the lower levels and create it because they are true believers. But never forget that top level of Scientology, it's only about the money and the power. And once you understand that, you're ready to get into more preparation. So here's some more stuff in your preparations. Number one, you have to know psychological and sociological coercive tactics and control, mind control, cold, because you're going to use that to keep yourself sane, and you're going to use that to attack them with. So you're going to have to read. I read dozens and dozens of published studies on mind control and doctoral theses under Margaret Singer, and it really makes a difference. And you will use this in court. You're going to beat them to death with Scientology being the technology, the science of mind control. Not a religion, but the science of mind control. Number two, you're going to need to read The Art of War 3 times. You're going to need to make it your Bible, because number one, they're going to do it to you. And number two, by being creative, you're going to turn it around on them. Number three.
And I gotta say, Larry, and they read the Art of War too, and that OSA is supposed to apply it. So it's like you're going to fight fire with fire. You need to know the Art of War.
But here's the thing they probably didn't understand about me. You have to apply the number one principle of Aikido. You have to learn this, and it's very simple. Whatever they attack you with is the exact weapon you turn around on them and beat them bloody with it. Okay, if they're attacking you with the religious arbitration clause, then you're going to turn that right around and you're going to use it in the courts and take it all the way up the courts, and you're going to take it away from them. Because when you take away that goofy religious arbitration clause that is impeding you having your constitutional rights, they fall apart. They can't have more Wollersheims going to court. They're going to have to settle out of court with everybody. Now, at some point, bring me back to telling you tips on how to remove the religious arbitration clause. But right now, I just want to spin through this quickly so we can get the question. Number. Sorry for this. I got to look.
It's okay, Larry.
Let your family and friends know what they're in for. You got to prepare everyone. Next one, become a tar baby and a poison pill. A tar baby is something that just never goes away. It's from an old Huckleberry Finn book. Really understand that you're going to convince them that you're a tar baby and you're never going away until they pay you. Almost convince them irrationally that you're a tar baby, and then you're also going to turn yourself into a poison pill. So they think if they think they can swallow you or go away, it just gets worse and worse. So these are strategies that when you enter into battle with these people, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to survive. Select the best possible law firm that you can find that's well financed, that has been to the U.S. Supreme Court. Because if you're going to win, you're going to go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court numerous times. Trust me on that one, because we did. Next, make sure you're realistic. They have money. They have lawyers and PIs that are completely unethical. And every major intelligence agency in the world has cracked their encryption because they have so much valuable information, blackmail on people all over the world, that Scientology is good for them to exist because they're getting information they couldn't get any other way. So you are fighting something that is well financed, and even the intelligence company, the intelligence agencies want them to stay in existence because, one, they're a great mind control experiment that they can get information on, and number two, they're the source of blackmail they could never get, because you all know you confess everything in Scientology, right? So appreciating the monster you're approaching. But I'm going to show you that monster has vulnerabilities. Let's see. The last thing in preparing is prepare yourself for a happy post-Scientology life. They paid me millions. I do exactly what I want to do. I don't worry about money. I am healthy as a mule. Okay, this is, well, how many years? 50 years after my case? I'm still here. They only threaten because they want to protect their money. They will not ultimately harm you. They may kill your dogs, they may scare your relatives, but they won't harm you because it will take away their money. If they kill somebody and they get caught, their top organization goes and the money goes. So it's all about the money. Remember that. So you have to, when you're going through all this, you have to see yourself and really realize you can have a happy post-Scientology life fully with full restitution and doing the things you always wanted to do. I won't go into detail on how happy my life has been and the amazing things that have happened. But that's enough on that. Let me talk about the next step, which is right actions. So right action, your law firm has to file what they call tort, the initial document, and they have to be a big firm that is thinking about the U.S. Supreme Court. The torts are planned on your defense at the U.S. Supreme Court on the freedom of thought, these ridiculous religious arbitration agreements. They are at the U.S. Supreme Court planning their case backwards. If the firm is not that kind of firm, don't deal with them. If they don't have that kind of acumen, remember that no matter what they say, every decision they make is about the money. At a certain point, they're going to say, this is not worth the money we're spending. This is not worth the punishment we're getting in public relations. They'll write you a check, but you have to convince them you're a tar baby, you're a poison pill, and you're a nightmare. And I'm going to show you how to become a nightmare. The Israelis have a principle called, and Margaret Singer first told me about this. She was the CIA psychiatrist that helped me get out of the cult and get a life. And basically, when you attack the Israelis, they have a punishment theory. And the old punishment theory was, you punish us, we're going to punish you 10 times more than you punished us, so that you think about the next level of punishment you give us. Now, some people could say the Israelis have gone to 1,000 times the level of punishment they originally had decades ago in the Gaza and whatnot, but we're not going to talk about that. But you have to adopt the 10 times payback policy. And you don't do it illegally. You do it with public relations. You do it with media coverage. You go to their most sensitive areas and you get them covered all the time. Now, every time they harass you and stall your case, get them used to it. And it's got to be dependable. They got to know that they screw with you 10 times is coming back at you up there in the headquarters. It's coming. And when I say PR, here's what I mean by PR. You get your story into the media. You get other ex-Scientologist stories that are even worse into the media. It's just you constantly, this is the stories. You focus on, you have to have things the media wants. So if you know of any sexual abuse in Scientology, particularly where senior executives are using the power of their position on less powerful executives and members of staff to solicit sex. Okay, if the Catholic Church has to pay for all of the abuse, sexual abuse that they've gone through all around the world, why isn't Scientology have to pay for the same sexual abuse? Sex gets headlines. So staff member sex, staff member abuse, all kinds of the crazy things they do to staff. Those are all good. But when you're doing this, you're telling about the worst stories of Scientology and getting media coverage. There's two things you always have to do. You always have to drag their top celebrities in and say, John Travolta and Tom Cruise are morally responsible for this because they're promoting this group. You got to make it so untenable for those celebrities to do any more promotion and having their PR people calling them and saying, you are getting associated with a mind control cult that is, has sexual abuse and abusing this, and on and on and on. So you always mention celebrities as morally responsible because they're promoting it. If they weren't promoting it, don't worry about them. But if they've ever promoted it, they're morally responsible for the crimes and abuse that occurs in Scientology. The second thing you always associate in your media stories is you take Scientology away from religion. It is the science of mind control, coercive influence, psychological and sociological manipulation. And these poor people that get into Scientology are a part of a gigantic mind control technology that's being run on the American public, okay? And they're being stripped of their assets and they're being turned into slaves on the staffs of these organizations. And you just keep focusing on the bad PR of Scientology. And when you do this 10 times what they've done to you, and every time you do it, they start to pull back. They really do, and they start to look at the cost card, okay? We estimate they spent $140 million on our case. They, at times for 3 months in the trial, they had 5 and 6 attorneys at $500 to $1,000 an hour sitting there all day long, not including their PIs for 30 years, not including, all of the other stuff. But there is a point at which they reach where they feel their money is threatened and the cost card doesn't work anymore. And you got to get them to that really quickly. And you got to convince them you're not leaving until you reach that point, and they're going to do it anyway. So they might as well pay you and say goodbye now and save themselves the headaches. So I guess about at this point, I would say, let's go to Q&A and go from there.
Okay.
And people may have some questions. And I hope in a few minutes, this gives you a very intense idea of what it takes to beat Scientology. And you will beat them if you follow right motivation, right plan, right action. Oh, one last thing.
Oh, go ahead.
All of our records from the Scientology case where we defeated them are at the University of Alberta in a secure archive run by Steve Kent or his peers. And your lawyers can tap into that and save a fortune when they start designing defenses and designing their initial complaint.
That's excellent. This is all very interesting, Larry. I had a couple comments. First, I was going to say, when they offered you $25 million but you would have to sign away your rights to speak or to talk to anybody and to turn in anybody that you did talk to and all that. I mean, that's very admirable for you to do that, to turn that down. I know that other people have done that. Mark and Claire Headley, the same thing. They turned it down because they were not going to sign over all this, the truth, and I have always felt the same way. Like Debbie Cook took a settlement and she had them, in court, where they were really going to get hammered, right? And then she took the settlement and gone. That's her choice, whatever, right? But my feeling has always been like yours, Larry. They could offer me $100 million. I'm not going to stop talking out about this because it's more important than the money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Getting this cleaned up and getting it exposed. It's more important than the money. And I don't need a lot of money in order to be happy. And so I was just say that's very admirable for you to do that. Now, I have one question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Larry.
it's for me, it was more about using religion to harm people. Okay. It wasn't so much about not being able to talk, although that was in there, but the religion thing, to use this sacred freedom, freedom of religion and pollute it and distort it and destroy it with lack of freedom of thought, to use mind control techniques to take away your freedom of thought under the guise of freedom of religion. That is obscene. And that, when Charlie and I, my attorney, we were looking at this, that was the clause. It wasn't the confidentiality. That was the clause that did it for me. You can't harm people under the guise of a religious corporation with trademarks and patents and all this baloney.
Okay, now let me ask you a question, okay? Because I know this is probably on the minds of a lot of the people that are watching this, right? You obviously, Scientology is famous for their fair game with their private investigators, and they try all the dirty tricks in the book to get you to back away. They try and find out what it is you're protecting and what it is that you is you're most protective of, and then they try to attack that, your job, your this, your that. What is your advice to people? How did you stand up to that? Because you did for 20, 30 years. How did you do that?
Okay. One is, it's coming. 2, 10 times rule. You don't just sit and take it. You go Israeli on them. You go Israeli. Number 3, I did a lot of praying. I'm being straightforward with you. Humble praying where just give me the strength to stay with this and suffer through. Suffering is part of the Scientology litigation process. You have to be willing to suffer and sacrifice for a greater goal. You thought you were doing it in Scientology. Well, guess what? When you take them on, you actually will do it. So it's, you just kind of acceptance, a pain isn't as bad once you accept it, but as long as you resist it, it gets worse. So I developed intense acceptance.
No, I agree with you, Larry, because it's the same with me. I mean, I've been attacked. I've been black PR'd all over the internet. I've had hate websites. I've had all sorts of stuff. And I just decided that I was not going to care about it because you know what? I know who I am. My close family and friends, they know how I am. They know my heart. And they're not going to believe that stuff. And they did come after my employers and try and say things about me. And my employers went like, what is this? This is ridiculous. You know what I mean? So it is hard to do, but it takes a I don't give a fuck attitude about what they say about me or what anybody says about me. I'm just going to continue living my life and doing what I want to do because that's the thing. Words cannot kill you. Okay. Words cannot, they can hurt your reputation and may hurt your feelings and all that, but you can continue. Your close family and friends will stay with you. And I like what you said about letting your family and friends know what you're in for and what they're in for. That's a great point. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just,
okay.
I'm just being silent and sitting with the thought and waiting for your next question.
Okay, well,
not often you catch me being silent.
Well, we're going to go right to the viewer questions right now. Janice has been starring a bunch of them. We've got several in here, and we'll just go to the top. I am going to cheat because I'm getting old. I'm going to put on glasses because I can't read some of these now. So anyway, I'm going to first of all put up a comment here from.
Let me get my hearing aid. I'm getting old too.
Well, I got these are earbuds that I need.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Anyway, my mother just turned 94 yesterday, and she's still alive and well. And I'm 66
happy birthday
now, so
to your mom.
Thanks, Larry. This is from ex-witness burning question. Larry, thank you for this Q&A. That's his first comment. The next question is from him again. Mark, did you meet Larry back in the 1970s? Yes, I did. I met him. I worked for him when he has very successful sales companies. And before I joined the Sea Org, when I was 18 years old, I worked for him briefly in Washington, D.C. So yeah, I met him then. And I said this on the earlier videos. The saying, I'll never forget it, is like, work like an ace, live like a king. That was his philosophy, and I still believe that. And Apostate Alex is in the house. Hey, Alex, how you doing? Comment, Larry, you mentioned in your interview that it doesn't matter how tough you are. It takes a team to take on Scientology. I couldn't agree with you more. We need the support of never ends to fight. Okay, that's a good comment. Thank you, Alex. And then Vernon is back. Question, Mark and Larry, are both of you still friends with Mike Rinder? I am. I mean, when you say friends, I'm friendly with him. We're not like buddies where we're talking and this and that, but I'm still in communication from time to time, but I don't hold any, animosity towards him. I mean, he did a lot of things towards myself and Janice and all that, because he was in charge of OSA. But it's funny. I don't know about you, Larry, how you feel about this, but after it's all said and done and I was out, I understood the pressure they were under. And, I don't know everything that they did to me, and I know they did a lot of things, but I just sort of like forgive and let's move on. Do you know what I mean? You don't forget, but forgive and move on. How about you?
I have had some communication with email through Mike, and I have no animosity towards Mike. I did have one request, is that at some point I would hope that Mike would confidentially, or however he wants to do it, let me know about some of the actions that were taken. I know the results of what happened, the harassment, but it would be nice to hear it from the inside at the time and the thinking. And, because I understand mind control, coercive influence, I know that Mike was a victim of it. And I admire the way Mike has come out and all the good things he's done. And one of these days, Mike, before we pass away, call me up and tell me the story from the inside.
I know the feeling. I mean, we've talked to him briefly about, what about some of the things that happened to us here in Las Vegas, and he doesn't remember. You know what I mean? But that's fine. I mean, I understand that. It's not like it's
tell him the statute of limitations is passed. He can't get dragged into it. There might be something on an original discovery that I might be able to use, and I'll split the money 50-50 with him.
Yeah, and then he did release they did release some OSA files from 2006 against me, and I got to read those and respond to them, and they matched up with what was happening in my life, the attacks that were going on at the time. So it just put evidence there that OSA was behind that, and that just makes me think that all the shit that ever happened to me, meaning because I'm a good person, they were behind all of it, even if they won't ever admit it. I know that they were. Anyway. Thank you for that question, Vernon. Alex, Apostate Alex, was there a clause in your settlement that prevented you from speaking out or suing them again?
Absolutely not. I
Good for
am
you.
100% free. I can say anything I want, anytime I want, forever. We signed nothing. They paid $9.2 million to the court, and I took it. That
Well,
was
that's good.
9,200. What? How many dimes are in $9.2 million?
A lot. More than 9.2 million.
Really?
92 million, probably. What is it, 10 cents to the dollar? So,
Right.
yeah. Anyway. Okay. Thanks, Alex, for that. That's a good question. Catherine, question. Do you know if this payout slash shut up caveat was accepted by some? That would be so tempting. 25 million. I'm not sure I could blame those who accepted just to end it.
Each person, like I was fortunate. Let's just say I had the world's best counselor who strengthened me and helped me get through the phobias and all the other stuff. And I was strong by the time we reached the court. I was mentally and emotionally strong. There are many people who leave Scientology who get no counseling, who have no idea what happened to them, are full of these phobias. So if you go against Scientology, you're going to drink Drano, you're going to die of cancer, all this crap. And if you're vulnerable and you aren't healed, and someone offers you money to be silent and go try to heal your life, I'm certainly not going to be the one that says, you know, you had to do what I did or you had to do what other people do. I did it based on the gifts and the support that I had, the knowledge that I had, and the strength that I had. And without all those things, I probably would have done the same thing. So I hope that's a useful answer that's as fair as I can think.
No, that's a good point. Thanks for that question, Catherine. Apostate Alex back with a question. What do you advise for those of us currently facing legal challenges with the Church of Scientology, but who lack the funding for competent lawyers?
You got to find a lawyer who sees your case as fame, and he sees it as a big pile of money. Okay. And you've got to have a good case that entices him, because Scientology builds this. People who go against Scientology build reputations, and you got to sell the media aspect. You got to tell them, I'm going to be getting all kinds of publicity about all these horrible things they're doing, and I'm going to be referring people to you and your law firm, and you're going to get all kinds of national and regional and local publicity on your firm. You're going to build your firm's reputation and public awareness on the intense public scrutiny and the controversy that's coming out of this case.
Yeah, and that, you know, Scientology has a reputation, and that lawyer or that firm has to they'll have to be aware of it and decide if they want to decide to take that on as well. You know,
right?
what I mean?
Well, there's negatives, but there's huge benefits. Huge benefits, and big law firms can get much bigger. You're looking for a big law firm. You're not looking for a single practitioner, and you're looking for a firm that says, we believe in your case. We will take it on contingency. We take 30% plus our costs. You get the rest. So I had to pay, you know, a bunch of millions of dollars to the attorneys after 30 years.
Right.
But so what?
Yeah. No, exactly. Now that brings up a good point. You know, you mentioned get celebrities involved in the PR, and you know, Tom Cruise and John Travolta and all that. That's something that Andrew Morton, the famous author who wrote a book about Tom Cruise, and he interviewed me for it, and who wrote the famous Princess Diana book back in the 1980s. But he said to me, like when when Anonymous was out protesting in like 2008, 2009. He told me, he said, you got to get celebrity involved with it. Otherwise, the media will not take it. There's got to be celebrity attached to it in some way for it to really take off and go viral. And that's a good point that you made, Larry.
Yeah, no, it's very simple. They're promoting it. They're morally responsible for the abuses occurring around the world. If they're taking it public, they're responsible, and you've got to pound that in every media piece that you do, along with Scientology is the science of control, coercive control.
Yeah. And then I have a question too. Linda Golan, who's a member of our channel, asked, and I sent it to you, but she wanted to know, do you have any specific advice other than what you've already talked about for Leah Remini and her case? Because she is suing Scientology and she's having to go through all these different things.
Is she being throttled and held back by a religious arbitration clause?
I'm not sure if she is. I think they may be trying, but see what's happening is they're splitting it because she's suing them over the fair gaming that has been happening since she left Scientology. Scientology has gone after her livelihood with, her career in Hollywood and shows that she's been on and that type of thing. And that's moving forward. Like, she's actually moving forward on this stuff. I don't know if the arbitration, if you guys are in the chat, if the arbitration is part of that or not, let us know.
Yeah. What is to comment on it? I'd have to know where she's stuck. And, again, I might not have the answer, but there's certain strategies that break roadblocks with Scientology. And maybe Leah and Mike should be getting more Scientologists talking about sex and more talking about Travolta and every celebrity. They should do a show on every celebrity who's morally responsible for the abuse of Scientology and the enslavement of people under the guise of religion. That would be a strategy. But if somebody knows the real cause, why she's blocked or stopped, let's deal with that.
Exactly. Okay, we'll go for the next question here. This is from Vernon again. Question, Larry, did you know Kirstie Alley and Kelly Preston? How do you feel about them passing from cancer?
First of all, at Celebrity Center, I saw them. I don't think I had a conversation with either one. I might have had a conversation when I was at Celebrity Center with Kelly Preston when she was there as a student before she and Travolta got together. Lots of people pass from cancer. Scientology doesn't cure cancer. Doesn't cure senility, doesn't cure need for old age homes for the old Scientologists that are still in the Sea Org. I feel sad. I felt sad when John Travolta's child died. We can't lose our humanity because a group of lower level people who are not sociopaths, the top of the organization is sociopathic, and they have been brought into that, and they had tendencies, and they know what they're doing. Never think the top of the organization doesn't know they're doing it. But the mid-level and the lower level, they've been brought into a sophisticated third generation mind control technology. And they do and say things that they will be ashamed of later in their lives. And so I don't have anything but understanding and sympathy and hope that when they get out, they do well in life. And when they suffer as humans, their children die or they get cancer and they get sick, how can you not have empathy for human suffering, no matter where it is, even if it's an adversary? You can have an adversary, but don't hate them. That'll remember the line in The Godfather, never hate your enemies, it clouds your judgment, but it saps your energy. So just win your case, but don't get off on these tangents. You don't have the luxury to do those things because you're going to need every bit of your creativity, intelligence, and energy to survive.
Yeah, I was going to say also from a personal level, my older sister, was a Scientology public and disconnected from me, in 1990. Anyway, and then she died in 2012 from colon cancer. She was only 54 years old or whatever, right? But Scientology does not believe in going to doctors. I mean, colon cancer can be caught very early, and it's one of the most treatable forms of cancer. But they tried to treat it with Scientology, and then she was gone.
Yeah, was was she a staff member? Because the staff members,
public.
Okay.
Public. Yeah, she was a public, and we didn't find out. They didn't bother to tell our family. I found out on Facebook 6 months after she died by just searching Facebook on different stuff, and that's how we found out that she died. They didn't. Her husband didn't even bother to call so that we could tell my mother. I mean, that's the cold-heartedness of Scientology when they on their policy on disconnection. So don't get me started on that.
Mind control that they use creates mean bullies. Okay, and it turns a person who had a decent heart into a bit of a monster. And each of us that's been in Scientology can look back as how they were pushing us to become more and more these aggressive, mean little monsters who any means justifies the ends of Scientology.
Yeah, and hey, listen, I just want to mention Janice tweeted me or texted me just a response regarding Debbie Cook, because people are in the chat. Debbie Cook did have a medical situation that she had to deal with. So she took the money because, she needed it, but she had already revealed all of the horrific harassment that had been done. And she has gotten a lot of people out of Scientology just by her posting her letter complaining about all the registrar sales techniques that were being done and all that when she was a commanding officer of the Flag Service Org. So in Debbie's defense, she did have a medical situation, so she took the money, and that was her choice.
I think understanding, we're getting older. Understanding is like a really good way to look at this, and to not judge because we don't know all the personal dynamics. Like now that you tell me she had a condition that she needed medical treatment, that affects your judgment as well when you're sick. So she chose what she needed to restore health and balance in her life. I'm not going to be upset about that.
No, not at all. All right, we'll go to the next question. Get in the chat. If you want to ask a question, just write question, get in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer it for you. Vernon again, Larry, now that you're out of Scientology, have your feelings of psychiatry changed?
Well, psychiatry, I've never seen a psychiatrist. I've always had therapy through psychologists, those who were pretty well trained in cults and mind control. So I can't speak from experience, but I can say that a lot of Scientology lower levels up to grade 4, basically were swiped from psychologists and polished up a little bit, if you do your research. And psychologists help me, and they've helped a lot of people. Margaret Singer also used to bust bad psychologists and psychiatrists. She was on the American Council for Psychiatry and Psychology. And there are bad psychologists who do bad things to people, who control them sexually, take their money. It's like everything in life, The science is a little soft. They are soft sciences. I've become much more of a science person since I left Scientology. If there isn't hard evidence, I don't want to play. But they have a decent track record without nearly the damage. Let's look at this. Nearly the damage is our friends Scientology, because the Scientology abuse, if you've been in a long time, it's likely you have chronic PTSD, not just regular PTSD, chronic PTSD, especially if you've been in Sea Org or the Guardian's office.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on that. All right, Brennan, thanks. Another question. Here he is. Larry, did you believe in past lives while in Scientology, and do you still believe in reincarnation now?
Okay. Two things. I'm hoping that some other people will ask questions, because I know ex-witness Vernon, you got a lot of questions, but let's let someone else for a while. But let me answer this. In Scientology, you're constantly led into the belief. Remember, in Scientology selects its audience for the most suggestible. So before you get into auditing, you're reading Dianetics, you're reading about people have past lives, you're being suggested into this constantly. Okay, so like all good Scientologists, I'm. Does everybody know about the eye roll test? Didn't I do that the last time
We
with
did
you?
that in the first video, yeah. And
Okay, so
I was highly suggestible.
I'm highly suggestible too. So I believed all that. Now that I'm out of Scientology and I'm a heavy science person and I work in the sciences at two think tanks doing science analysis of climate research, I don't believe in it. And I tell people the story. If they ask me, I believe in reincarnation, I tell them, oh yeah, sure. I was I cleaned the stables for the Pharaoh back when, and then during the Roman time, I cleaned the stables, shovel the horse shit out for the Roman emperors. And I just go through all the history. And every time I tell them I'm another shit shoveler in another stable down through history, because I just play with it. It's one of those
Well,
things.
it's really a matter of faith more than
Yeah,
science.
yeah,
You know what I mean? If you believe, you're welcome to believe whatever you want to believe. You know, it's a faith. It's a faith matter, though. There's no scientific proof.
yeah.
You know?
And if you die and come back, tell us what you found.
Yeah,
Until then, I'm
but
going to
it's
be a
like that
science
too with,
guy.
but it's like that with heaven and hell and all. I mean, it's just a matter of faith. It's what do you believe? You know, and let's go further. I got another question from somebody else. Here we go.
Oh
This
my
is from
God.
Cece. Vernon, just so you know, Vernon, we're happy with your questions. It's just we're going to take some of the other ones too. Question, is it possible you will do another Q&A on another channel? Please. I love this.
I'm sorry. I'm retired. I paid my dues. I did my work. All of the knowledge that I've accumulated is in other videos that I've done in the past and is in the archives at the University of Alberta, the 300 bankers boxes. Um, I'm working on something now that is taking my life, my attention to work on a social issue of climate. And if we don't fix that, we don't have to worry about Scientology in the future. Nobody's going to be around. So I've gone somewhere else. There are wonderful people that are doing this work, like Janice and Mark, Jerry Armstrong, Mike Rinder. Go to these people who have more current knowledge and go that way, because I'm done. And I'm going to say something. If Scientology, if they're watching this up in the high executive offices and they don't like what, and they don't like what I'm saying, watch that movie with Joan Crawford where she's sitting in a boardroom and she says, "Don't fuck with me, fellas. This ain't my first rodeo. And if you guys come back after me again, remember the power formula. You always save something from the old days so that if they ever come after you again, you can use it." Remember the power formula and the stories about Beria and the Russians and whatnot. So I got off on a tangent, but I'm done. The only people that could drag me back into this is if Scientology comes after me or mine again, which would be the biggest mistake. This another big mistake they make. I would go, and you wouldn't believe the things I've saved up over 20 years. I am rested, and I know a lot more than I knew 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So say goodbye to me, Scientology. Deal with what you got to deal. Pay the people you need to pay. I don't want you destroyed. You're a great teaching example. You never can destroy a cult. It's information. All that's going to happen is you're going to lose your teeth and claws and hurt less people. That's what's going to happen in the future, and you're still going to make money. So leave it alone.
Okay, we'll go to the next one. This is Peter Anderson says, Leah Remini's case is in the delay stages. I believe it's delayed for another year. Leah's representation had to withdraw over a conflict of interest. I believe she has new representation now. I think you're right about that. She does have new representation. And her attorney had a conflict of interest and had to drop out.
Let me tell you an important story about that. You need to be ready to go through multiple law firms. Tell Leah that this is normal in a long-term Scientology case. I went through 5 law firms, not because I wanted to, but because Scientology finds something on one of the lawyers or the partners that they can use to blackmail them or compromise the case. And sooner or later, a conflict of interest, blackmail, or the case starts operating funny because one of the people in the law firm has some deep, dark secret that Scientology PIs have that can't be revealed. Okay, so I had to go through,
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I had to go through 5 different law firms to eventually, over 30 years, win. And it's just normal. Tell Leah, prepare for more of that and make sure she has like a really powerful firm, and use this rest time to go Israeli. Start gathering up her information 10 times, go right after the other celebrities, go after control technology. This is the science of control, and hit them out of the gate so hard when the case starts that they wish they didn't do this and delay it. You got to punish them for this. They've compromised your law firm. You need to punish these people legally with public relations. Nothing other than absolute legal, and with a kind heart while you're doing it.
Thanks for that question, Peter. I was going to ask you, another tactic that they use too about attorneys is that they find the best attorneys in whatever city it is that you're suing or whatever, and they contact them before you ever contact them. So that way there is a built-in conflict of interest when you go to that firm and say, hey, I'd like you to represent me. And they go, well, we've already had conversations with Scientology. I'm sorry, we can't take your case. And that's something that they do as well.
Yeah, they're every dirty little trick they can. But here's the thing. If you have a just motive and you're creative and you're persistent and you understand what's going on, you will find, it's funny, life will present you with the team sooner or later. You may have to kiss a lot of frogs to find the right team, but you will find your right team. Just stay with it. Stay with it.
Okay, here's the next question. This is a good one too. This is from FY54321. Question, after the last settlement, has Scientology held up to their side by completely leaving you alone? Is there any evidence that they persisted in surveillance, investigation, or harassment of you?
In general, they left me alone. In general, there was a little bit of occasional PIs, what's Lawrence doing? Where's he living? They have 2 levels of PIs, the $5,000 and $10,000 a day, really dirty trick PIs. And then they have the $500 a day, like general kind of where they just kind of look and observe you. And generally they left me alone, which was really smart, because then I had all that money and I was rested. So why would you go after, 30 years of battle, losing $140 million in legal fees, then $9.2 million in court fees, in court settlement, and then go pick on the guy again? They're not stupid, okay? Don't think these sociopaths at the top of the organization are stupid. Right. They understand, they got the best lawyers in the world, and they understand Scientology means strategy. They understand intelligence strategy. They don't understand life in general. Miscavige has really no formal education. This guy doesn't understand system theory. He doesn't understand data analysis, deep data analysis. He doesn't understand dialectical theory. He doesn't understand a lot. But what they do understand, they're good at. They're very good at.
That's a great question. Thank you so much for that. Danielle Chamberlain, member of our channel. Hi, Danielle, over in England. Larry, do you think that as I was locked up in the chain locker as a child by LRH, I'd have legal legs? Danielle, when she was minor, like 12 years old, she was on the Apollo and locked in the chain locker, and she was on there without her parents or anything, and she was abused. But but we're talking 50 years ago or more,
Right. Here's what you got. Probably statute of limitations. You'd have to look in your state if this could be considered sexual abuse is the only thing in the U.S. right now in certain states.
When she's in England, so yeah.
Okay, in England, you'd have to check the laws on the limited statute of limitations. But what you might be able to do is start contact their lawyers and say, hey, I finally realized I was abused as a child. This was serious child abuse. I'm about to go public around the world with Leah Remini, and I'm bringing all your celebrities in and talking about this science of mind control that is guising itself as a religion. And you have a choice. You can either pay fair compensation for what L. Ron Hubbard, and this is L. Ron Hubbard, this is a sacred cow. This is even better than Miscavige. They don't want L. Ron Hubbard, attached to child abuse, because this is child abuse. And you keep using the word child abuse, verging on the edge of, whatever. But you negotiate with them and say, look, I want fair compensation for what happened to me as a child. I had no one there to protect me. And you have a choice. You can have this in the news around the world about your founder, L. Ron Hubbard, or you can give me fair compensation. And then they're going to say, well, we'll give you $25,000. We'll give you $10,000. And then you say,
yeah.
And then they'll go back and forth. And sooner or later, they'll give you a decent number, because I don't think they can have this go out about L. Ron Hubbard abusing children on the Apollo. And then you would say, when you go to the media and when you go to the attorneys, and Tom Cruise and John Travolta, name all their celebrities, are morally responsible for what L. Ron Hubbard did to me as a child, this child abuse, because they're actively promoting this group. I mean, you're going to give them a real headache.
Now, Larry, let me turn the page, okay? Let's turn the page towards healing, okay? Because we've talked about litigation and all that sort of stuff. What advice do you have for people who have left Scientology or a cult? Are there any books that you recommend, or any people that they should see or talk to? What is your advice for somebody like that?
If you're fairly bright, go and read the original mind control studies that Margaret Singer and Sheen and Lifton did. The three people that were former CIA people. Read her book, Cults in the Midst, because I don't think you can access the same doctoral theses and papers that I had at the time. Understand, all that happened to you was you were the victim of sociological and psychological control technology, really advanced control technology that broke down the U.S. Marines. Second generation broke down the U.S. Marines in World War II in Korea. They had Marines tough as nails, giving up the United States, giving it up, saying it's a bad country. So just realize it's just technology. And then when that starts the healing, then go see a therapist who has a cult background, who understands the dynamics, and starts stripping the phobias and all these thought loops of crazy ideas, that don't make sense in the real world. They only make sense in Scientology, a closed environment. Then I would help others. And if seeking justice is great healing. Justice is the icing on the cake, because you go from victim to oppressor, but you do it legally. Society wants you to do it, and they want you to get paid for doing it too. So how deep you go in healing is how far you want to heal. Like the healing I had, because of the amazing knowledge and therapy and justice that I was able to get, turned my wounds they tempered them into strength. That's why they don't want to come after me again. They dealt with wounded Lawrence before. They don't want to deal with healed, well-resourced Lawrence.
Now, let me ask you another question. Where would somebody find therapists that are cult experts? I mean, is there a way to search that on? Because I've asked this before myself, and I have no idea.
Start with Steve Hassan.
Nobody wants to pay a therapist and then have to pay all their money just to explain to them what Scientology was all about. You know what I mean?
Start with Steve Hassan, ask him, then Yanya Yalik. Yanya Yalik was another one of Margaret's proteges here in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and network through them. There's a network of psychologists who are cult trained. There are a lot of ex-Scientologists who are cult knowledgeable and kind people, but it's not the same to be deprogrammed by a Scientologist who understands what happened to you on a deep level as the same as a psychologist who understands how to undo all this crazy crap they used to, coerce your mind and body into believing absolute crap.
Yeah. And then the other thing,
ask me how I really feel about Scientology now. I just kidding.
Well, and Steve Hassan is a cult expert. He's written many books about cults. So it's Steve Hassan. So that's one of the.
And Yanya Yalich, and network through them to other people. There's also Carol Gambavalo, I think her name is. I don't know if she's still doing it. I have dyslexia, so okay. I might be mispronouncing her last name, but there's a network of people who understand Scientology, who are licensed psychologists and get good results.
Yeah. Now, a couple other things too that people can do on an immediate basis. They can read books. This is the book by Margaret Singer, Cults in Our Midst, okay, which talks about the mind control. But then there's a book about L. Ron Hubbard that helped me immensely when I left, and that's Barefaced Messiah by Russell Miller. And it is the true story of L. Ron Hubbard. He did extensive research. It's an excellent book for anybody, even if you never weren't involved with Scientology. Read this book. It's great. Along with A Piece of Blue Sky by John Atack. It's another book. And then Ben Corridan, L. Ron Hubbard, Messiah or Madman, he interviewed L. Ron Hubbard Jr., Nibs, as part of the book. And Ben Corridan was a big-time mission holder in Riverside, California. And so all these books are really good at exposing the lies that we were all told. And so that's another thing that I would recommend. Anyway, I was going to ask you one other question, okay, here, because we're going to get here towards the end. Please, if you got any other questions that you want to get in there right now, please do so. But I wanted to ask you, somebody asked me, do you ever think about what's going to happen to Scientology going forward and what its future holds?
Yeah, it's going to reach a point where all of the corporate defenses of Scientology have been dismembered at the U.S. Supreme Court, because you can't take away freedom of thought using using mind control technology. That eventually is going to make it to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they are going to protect freedom of thought as the senior right to freedom of religion, because you have to be free to make choices. And if you've been so manipulated, so coerced, you can't, and under so much duress. And if you think the threat of losing your eternal salvation is not duress, well, then I don't know. But they're going to lose their defenses, and they're going to be a small group, like a limited number of people that'll never get very large, maybe 50,000 people worldwide, something like that. They'll always keep running through 90% of the people that go into Scientology leave within 5 years after they're stripped of all their money. And their claws will be taken away and their teeth will be taken away, because the lawsuits will start making them change so many of their tactics. They'll have so many lawsuits that they'll have to change these tactics going forward. So they'll be a echo of their former tiger self. They'll be little kitty cats with no teeth or claws, and they'll be harming a smaller number of people forever. And they'll be a great learning example about cults and the danger of cults and what happens to them, because destroying them should never be in your mind. You can't destroy ideas. Okay? Scientology is a set of ideas that we can enslave and strip people of their assets using mind control, coercive sociological control, coercive psychological control. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, the internet, once the OT3 and OT levels were exposed that were confidential, all of a sudden that's out there and people can see exactly what it is that Scientology and Hubbard was doing, right? So that works to their detriment. They're getting smaller and smaller. My personal opinion is David Miscavige is 64 years old and he does not take good care of his health. He will not be here much longer. We've just recently had friends that have died at 66 just yesterday, somebody that I knew very well. And he does not take good care of himself. He's under enormous stress, and he drinks, he smokes, and who knows how much longer he'll be here. But have anybody seen any heir apparent? I haven't. They don't do any events. Who knows? Hubbard's technology and bulletins, yeah, they're in titanium plates in a cave somewhere. But once Miscavige goes, I think you're going to see it just diminish even faster, in my opinion.
I have a comment, an opinion on that.
Go
You
ahead.
have a Lord of Flies situation at the top of Scientology. When Miscavige passes away, and I seek no harm to him whatsoever,
No.
when he passes away of natural whatever, there is someone in the wings. There's power, the sex, the money will always bring the next sociopath up. Just like in nature, when an alpha dies in a pack of wolves and there are no other alphas, a beta, it's called epigenetics, genetically becomes an alpha and then starts to act like an alpha. In that Lord of Flies top management, where nobody believes that it is crap, it's just money, power, and sex, there are people in the wings already anticipating Miscavige's passing and seeing themselves as the next leader of a kitty cat with no claws and no teeth, but they have lots of power, sex, money, and status. I mean, those things are really intoxicating. And to think that someone else is not going to, just like Miscavige grabbed at it, to think that someone else isn't in the wings ready to grab at Miscavige's pie.
That may be, but they may not be as ruthless as he is. You know what I mean? It's like, there's leaders that were really ruthless. They were taken out and then things fell down,
He probably wouldn't be, because he might be smart enough to see that these tactics are putting them into a no-win game. And they can't keep beating the courts and the law and the publicity forever. Yeah. They're you know what I call it? The Sisyphus punishment. They're already in the Sisyphus punishment. If you don't know what Sisyphus was, he was a guy condemned by the gods to roll a stone up a hill. And when he got to the very top, he slipped and fell, and the stone went all the way back down. And for all eternity, he could never get that stone over the top of the hill. That's Scientology today. They have already received the Sisyphus punishment. They're already contained. They'll never get any larger, and they're just going to keep losing their legal rights and protections, and their money is going to start disappearing.
Okay, good. Listen, I have to mention, Janice mentioned, and I was going to do this, Janice, another book to help people, cure themselves after Scientology is Janice's book, Commodore's Messenger, Book 1. That's her with L. Ron Hubbard on the Apollo, where she talks about her life and what happened on the Apollo. And then, of course, Book 2 as well. And they're both available. Just go down below, click on the link to our merchandise store, and you can order autographed copies from Janice. So I need to mention that for our friend Janice, who's in the chat.
May I throw out a couple things? If there are any other really good questions, I've got a few more minutes, and we could do a few more questions, pick a couple good ones, and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually gone through most of them right now, but if anybody has any last questions, we'll do that. We'll go on to that. Anyway, I don't really have too much more just to mention. Does anybody else have anything here they want to say? Please do so. I already asked that question. I'm just going through and seeing here. I think that covers it, Larry. Well,
then
I got it.
Can I just say a few closing words?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a very happy life. I'm very healthy. I would recommend that if you've left Scientology, get the healing you need, enjoy your life. Just at some point, you're going to come to realize that this was all about money and power and about technology, mind control, sociological control technology. They got you to do things you would never do in your right mind. And accept it, don't fight it, move on, build your life, and help who you can along the way. And that's about it. And I appreciate...
We got a
One
last
more
question, if you don't
question.
mind. Yeah, this one's a good one. It goes right along those lines. Where is it at? Here we go. Question: what is Lawrence doing these days, and what became a FactNet?
Okay, FactNet evolved into several other organizations, nonprofits, because when I decided, after I've done with, educating about Scientology, we just moved to other missions because we had a nonprofit and, expanded the mission to climate change and to the Universe Institute, which is, global problems, new solutions, evolutionary theory, a bunch of different areas that, I'm very interested in. And I work with others on. And then basically, I work at the Universe Institute as a volunteer, and I work at Job One for Humanity, and I do advanced climate research. I recently had the great opportunity to be trained by a former Harvard professor who has developed a new type of data analysis called dialectical metasystemic thinking. There's only a few people in the world that can do it. And I'm using that to analyze climate and global problems. And this technology is amazing. It absolutely, intelligence agencies around the world are scrambling to get their people into it because it takes systems theory and logic and all this other stuff and makes it look like kindergarten. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing. I'm having a fun life. My nickname is Fun Pig. I party on the weekends. I work hard like an ace during the week, and I do live well. I live on a beautiful yacht. I've been on this yacht. It's a 160,000 pound, 3-story, 4-stateroom yacht, and I deserved it. And I continue to do good in the world, because what's more important than to be of some kind of service?
That's right. I have one last question. I missed it before, and the person in the chat asked if we would ask it. And this is from CC Question. Disconnection is their worst fair game. Do you have suggestions what we can do about that, about disconnection?
Oh, that one is getting back connected is very, very, very difficult because I've worked with Margaret Singer and, helping her with that and helping other counselors with that. It's a very tough road. You need a patient professional to help you. But again, here's where the rules of right action. You need to make yourself into a poison pill and a tar baby and, let Scientology know you don't cough this person up. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to be in the media and we're going to be talking about Scientology celebrities who have destroyed my family. And Tom Cruise is personally responsible for destroying my family and John Travolta because they promote this group and this mind control, the science of mind control group hiding as a religion. And you just keep pounding it and get more and more media coverage and be such a tar baby and be such a poison pill that they go, they're nuts. Pay them, because we're going to lose Travolta and we're going to lose Cruise and we're going to lose these other celebrities because they can't go outside and have their media image beat up like this. They just can't. So Scientology will lose Hollywood. And if it loses Hollywood, then they're really collapsing into this little Sisyphus. They won't even be able to push the rock halfway up the hill anymore if they lose Hollywood. And that's when you go after celebrities, you're taking Hollywood away from them. In the book Art of War, The Bones of the Ancestors, read that story because their celebrities are their bones of the ancestors and their money is their bones of the ancestors. Those are the two things. Go after the celebrities. Oh, and their religious image is the bones of the ancestors. Every time they try to package as a religion or as a thing, you package them as a mind control, science, technology. Best on the planet. You keep bragging about how good their mind control is. They will throw you out They will at some point throw that person out. They'll find a reason, because the beating you're giving them is not worth the benefit they're getting from that person.
That's good. Now, I want to mention one thing about disconnection, something that Janice and I have been pushing, and that's to stay in communication, even if they don't write back to you, even if they won't talk to you. Janice sent birthday cards to people every year on their birthday. They stayed in communication with their father. They were able to get him out just by staying in communication. And we have products. We have this little product here we call Connection, right? I designed it. This is a drink thing, but we got coffee mugs and T-shirts. But you can send a gift like that for Christmas, which is coming up, to a Scientologist who's in there. This has no like anti-Scientology or anything. It's connection. It's a heart with two arrows going into it, and you can send it, and it just shows that you care. Okay, and trust me, people inside, they're going through a lot. It's good for them to know that there are people outside that still care about them.
Now, Mark, didn't you tell me there's a secret button on the bottom of that cup that passes messages? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you hide it in here. Yeah, kind of like.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry. You know, this is such serious stuff. We got to have gallows humor about it, and we got to have fun, and we got to laugh about the crazy stuff we did. That is part of the healing process. Absolutely part of the healing process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we appreciate all the comments and everything from everybody's here. And Larry, we appreciate your time as well for doing these 3 interviews with us. If you came late to this live, just watch it. It's on a replay. You can watch it anytime you like, and you won't miss anything. But we just wanted to thank everybody for being here, and thank Larry for being here. And in the meanwhile, I got to do just a little business. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to our channel. Hit that like button. It helps us get this message out to other people who are not attached to Scientology at all. It really does help. Subscribe, hit that like button. If you have any other questions, ask in the comment section down below. I'll answer them as best I can. If I can get information from Larry, I'll do that, but that really helps. And then if you'd like to support our channel, you can buy us a coffee. Go down, there's a link in the description. Click on that, buy 5, 10, 15, 100 coffees, whatever you like. It helps support the channel, and we really appreciate that. And then, as I mentioned before, you can order Janice's book down below, get autographed copies of the book, and you'll really enjoy reading them. They're a great history of Scientology and that type of thing. So that's down below. And also the Connection merchandise is down below too. And like I said, we're doing this out of the goodness of our heart. Janice and I are not making much money, if anything, on this. And as a matter of fact, we spend more money on this channel than we make, you know, on any advertising or anything like that. So anyway, it's a good cause if you want to help support us. And Larry, have you got anything else you'd like to say?
I just wanted to thank everyone who's watching this video, and wishing you all the best possible, healthy, wonderful lives. And, you know, I hope that something in this video is going to help you with your transition. And that is about it. I'm going to go have fun, keep having fun. And that's it.
Larry, stick around right after I play the exit video. We'll talk on the other side, okay? Thank you for watching, everybody, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye. And Janice, feel better.
Definitely.